Hello students. So in this video, we are going to look into various materials used in orthodontics for different appliances. So a lot of metals and ceramic and other materials have been used as materials for orthodontic during orthodontic treatment. So discussing about the properties are equally important. One mark questions do come from these material properties. Is a very important topic and also a very important topic in terms of MCQs also. Material components, their advancements are routinely being asked in the examinations. So we'll start with one of the most basic material used in orthodontics. So for orthodontic treatment, the most common types of appliances that you generally use for this is the removable appliance, which will have your clasps, your labial bows, your acrylic plates, and semi-fixed appliances like your headgears, your twin blocks, and fixed appliances, which includes your brackets, your arch wires, your bands, everything else. So the requirements of an orthodontic appliances basically is three types: a biological requirement, mechanical, and aesthetic requirement. So what are the biological requirement? So orthodontic appliance, any material, is in your mouth. It's there going to be there in your mouth for close to a year and a half. So there should be certain biological properties that should be inherent to those materials. One, it should not cause any sort of damage to your mucosa, to your tooth. It should not trigger any allergies. It should not hamper the growth or development of the soft tissue structures. It should also not attract accumulation of plaque and accumulation of microorganisms that could eventually cause some sort of caries or periodontal lesions. So all these should be a biological property of a material that's being used for orthodontic purposes. So, what are the mechanical requirements? Orthodontic treatment generally runs because of a force. So, this material should be able to produce continuous but a controlled amount of force. It should be able to withstand masticatory forces because the patient is going to wear the appliance and sometimes is going to eat, especially in fixed appliance. So, it should be able to resist those forces. It should be easy to fabricate and it should not be very uncomfortable for the patient. Next is aesthetic requirements. It should not be seen, it should not have a bad appearance, and to an extent, it should be aesthetically acceptable. So, coming to the materials that are used, first is the arch wire. Arch wire is basically the wires that you place that produces the active tooth movement. Brackets is there a passive orthodontic materials. Basically, you can classify as active components, passive components, and auxiliaries. So active components are your arch wires, your night eye coil springs, e-chains, all those. Passive components are your brackets and attachments. And auxiliaries are auxiliary force delivery materials, your impression materials, your cements, your bonding composite, your etchant. All those things come under auxiliaries. So active materials, passive materials, and auxiliaries. So, for an ideal arch wire, in this presentation, we are going to discuss one of the most important material used in orthodontic treatment, which is your stainless steel. So, stainless steel has been used for a multitude of reasons, multitude of ways in orthodontic uh, treatment. One is the use of a arch wire, the wire that you place in the patient's mouth. Brackets are made of stainless steel. Your clasps, the wire that you use for wire bending is stainless steel wire. Your pliers, orthodontic pliers, are made up of stainless steel. So you need to understand about a little bit about this material so that you can apply it in a efficient way during your treatment. So stainless steel was first developed by Harry Brearley in England, and initially during the before the invention of stainless steel, only gold was used because gold was the most inert material that could also withstand some amount of force. So gold brackets, gold wires were being used. So when stainless steel came, it was a more cheaper option. So it can be procured more easily, and it is also very easier to make because it was not that expensive. So stainless steel replaced gold wires in the 1930s. Today, stainless steel is used to make arch wires, your band materials, brackets, and also for your pliers, everything stainless steel is only being used. So, what is the composition of a stainless steel? Stainless steel basically contains a carbon steel plus close to 12 to 13% chromium. So, carbon steel plus chromium will give you stainless steel. So, why is it called as stainless steel? Carbon steel, when exposed to moisture, corrodes. But addition of this magic metal, which is your chromium, is going to give a anti-corrosive property to this material. So you would have all used steel utensils for your routine cooking. They don't rust off, right? They are always the way they are shiny, and once you use it, you clean it, even if it's watery, it's not going to affect the material at all. This is mainly because of the presence of your chromium. So you reduce the carbon content to less than 0.20% and increase the chromium percent, it is going to produce an anti-corrosion property by method of something called as passivation. What happens? What does this chromium do? Chromium on top of the surface of the metal reacts with oxygen and forms chromium oxide. This chromium oxide is what forms a passivating layer. So any moisture, any corrosive products, this chromium oxide layer is going to be protective for that material from rusting or corrosion. So chromium, the most important property you need to remember of chromium is passivation. It is a very, very important one mark question. Addition of chromium in stainless steel is to prevent corrosion, and it has a passivating effect. In orthodontics, the slight modification of the stainless steel is being used. It is called as 18-8 stainless steel. 18% chromium and 8% nickel is added to the material. So 18-8 stainless steel is it's also called as 18-8 stainless steel because of this composition. So this is the stainless steel that is currently used in orthodontics. So this stainless steel can be classified into three types based on the structure. So based on three forms. So ferritic, austenitic stainless steel and martensitic stainless steel. So we will just see how they are different and what are the applications of these three. So ferritic stainless steel has a BCC structure, body centered cubic. This is the structure of the stainless steel material. So this has a good corrosion resistance. It's low cost, but it possesses low strength. It is not very strength. So it cannot be hardened. Work hardening is not possible. So ferritic stainless steel is generally not used currently in orthodontics. So this ferritic metal alone is not used. Next is austenitic stainless steel. The composition of the austenitic stainless steel is face centered cubic, FCC. Ferritic stainless steel is BCC and austenite stainless steel is FCC. It is the most corrosion resistant of all the stainless steel. It is the most commonly used in orthodontic materials, and it has an ASI number of 300 series. So they will ask you one mark regarding the body structure, the structural organization of the austenite stainless steel. So, and the ferritic and the martensitic. Coming to martensitic stainless steel, it has high strength, hardness and brittleness. It is slightly less corrosion resistance compared to austenitic stainless steel, and it is usually used for making instruments, surgical and cutting instruments. So orthodontic materials like arch wires, all those are made using austenitic stainless steel, and the pliers, the cutting instruments are made by martensitic stainless steel. So what is the composition of the stainless steel and what are their function? Like I said, chromium, it increases the tarnish and corrosion resistance. It increases the hardness and strength of the material. So corrosion resistance is of the stainless steel is majorly contributed by chromium. So what does nickel do? It increases the strength and it also increases the tarnish and corrosion resistance to a little bit. Next, there is addition of cobalt. Cobalt slightly decreases the hardness so that the wire can be bent and all that. Manganese, it increases the hardness during quenching. What is quenching is that when you heat the stainless steel and suddenly dip it in cold water, there is that process is called as quenching. So it's called as a heat strengthening or annealing process. And silicon also is present. It acts as a deoxidizer or a scavenger. And titanium. So, in stainless steel that contains more carbon. So, what happens is instead of the chromium forming chromium oxide, this chromium, when the metal is heated, it reacts with the carbon and forms chromium carbide. So, the amount of chromium present in the molecule to form the passivating layer like gets reduced. So, what happens? They added reduce the amount of carbon that is generally present in the stainless steel to prevent the formation of chromium carbide. Also, they added titanium. This titanium is added to prevent the precipitation of chromium carbide so that the corrosion resistance of the chromium, that is the stainless steel, is not reduced by depletion of the chromium. We'll get into this process a little later. So, what are the properties of the stainless steel? Stainless steel is the most stiff material available in orthodontics. There are other arch wires which we'll be discussing in further videos, but stainless steel arch wires are the most stiffest wire and they are generally used at the end of the treatment once the every teeth is aligned. Once the teeth is completely aligned, to hold the tooth positions in its current position. Stainless steel arch wires are used because they are high stiffness and they resist deformation even while eating. The masticatory forces do not tend to deform the arch wires of stainless steel. Spring back. Spring back is generally less compared to the other materials. However, if you reduce the thickness of the stainless steel, a little bit of spring back is expected. Resilience. It is kind of less resilient because it's a very stiff wire. Formability, excellent formability. Formability means the ability of the material to be formed or made into loops. A common example is you all do wire bending with your stainless steel wire, your 23 gauge stainless steel wire, 22 gauge stainless steel wire. You make clasps, you make label bows. You are able to bend the wire and make it into different shapes, right? So it is an excellently formable material, and it can also be two stainless steel materials can also be joined together by the means of soldering as well as welding. So next topic I told is the sensitization of 18H stainless steel, which I told a little bit back. Excess amount of carbon in stainless steel. What happens is when the heating of the stainless steel, usually during soldering or welding, you directly heat the solder and the material together. So when the temperature rises to 400 to 900 degrees, what happens is that there is formation. The carbon gets released and it reacts with the chromium in the stainless steel and forms something called as chromium carbide. So this chromium carbide, what happens, is a very weak structure and this predisposes the stainless steel to corrosion. What happens is, number one, this chromium carbide is very weak and acts as a region where corrosion starts. Two, the amount of available chromium present in the material is reduced. So what happens is this material now gets exposed to corrosion. Initially protected by chromium is now susceptible to corrosion when it is heated. So what can we do? Can we not heat? Because you need to join materials for orthodontic purposes. It's not maybe not be all time possible to prevent soldering and welding. So what can be done? Like I said, you can minimize the carbon content in the material. Also, you need to quench immediately after soldering. So this formation of this intragranular, you can see chromium carbide is between the two granules. There is this is the grain. Between that it gets deposited. So in that area it gets corroded. So if you quench heat the material after soldering. Immediately you put it in water. You can control the temperature. You can reduce the temperature so that it does not reach 400 to 900 degrees. So these are the methods you can use. There is another method, like I said, adding other metals like titanium, tantalum, and niobium. So you can prevent chromium and carbon from reacting. So the method of sensitization, the formation of chromium carbide at high temperature is called as sensitization. It reduces the passivating property of the chromium in the stainless steel. So this can be reduced by controlling the carbon content, quenching the material, soldered material immediately in water so that you can control the temperature. 3, you can do something called as stabilization by addition of titanium or tantalum or niobium into the material so that the chromium carbide does not combine together and cause corrosion resistance. So, to summarize the basic properties of stainless steel, it has high strength, high stiffness. However, it is not a very elastic or a resilient wire. It has low spring back and low springiness, good formability and joinability, and the corrosion anti-corrosion property is due to chromium. This is a very new topic for you all because you would have read about stainless steel in your dental material classes also. But Australian orthodontic wire is something developed newly just for the purpose of orthodontic treatment. It was developed by Arthur J. Wilcock. So it is also known as Australian orthodontic arch wire or AJ Wilcock arch wire. It has a certain very unique characteristics that are slightly different from stainless steel. We all just read that the stainless steel is not very resilient. It does not have spring back. But the features of this Australian orthodontic arch wire, this wire is generally looks very black in color because of the heat treatment. So there is a specific heat treatment that the stainless steel undergoes. This material has good resiliency, it has good spring back, and it has something called as zero stress relaxation. So what does zero stress relaxation means is that you're making a loop and you're engaging. There is some in some wires, the stress incorporated in the loop gets slightly deactivated when you engage it into the arch, engage it into the bracket. But when you do it with the AJ Wilcock arch wire, there is something called a zero stress relaxation. Whatever activation has been incorporated will be there constantly. It does not lose its the material does not lose its activation. So this is a very good property for making springs, for making cantilever springs, all those things are intrusion arches, everything. It's a very important material that you can use to make these materials. So it is this Australian orthodontic arch wire has good resiliency, good spring back, and zero stress relaxation. It is a very important property. No other wire has this zero stress relaxation property. So if they ask you in 1 mark which material has zero stress relaxation, it is your AJ Wilcock or Australian orthodontic arch wire. There are various grades of this: regular grade, regular plus. This is basically based on the resiliency of the material. Special grade, and there are also newer grades: premium plus, supreme plus, and premium P. So, like I said, zero stress relaxation means when a wire is deformed and held in a fixed position, the stress in the wire may diminish with time. I'll give you an example. Say you are having teeth, spaced dentition, you are placing brackets. To close the brackets, you are giving an E-chain connected. The E-chain is usually elastomeric E-chain. So one visit you are putting. Next visit when you see, the E-chain will all be deformed and there won't be any force on the E-chain. You will have to remove the E-chain and put a new E-chain. But an Australian orthodontic arch wire, when engaged into the tooth, it will constantly produce the same amount of the force as and when it is activated. So the force does not diminish over time. That is a very important property of this Australian orthodontic archware. Again, I repeat, zero stress relaxation is a very important property of the Australian orthodontic archware, also known as AJ Wilcock archware. So, like I said, the heat treatment, there's a special heat treatment which has not been disclosed by the company to bring about these very important properties seen in the Australian orthodontic archware. These wires are generally supplied in the form of coils in a wound manner. So these wires are generally straightened by spinner straightening or pulse straightening. So another important thing you need to understand with regard to the use of stainless steel is the presence of nickel hypersensitivity. It is very common in the Western countries. Close to 40% of their population experience nickel hypersensitivity. But India, it is not that much common. But there are occasionally incidences where nickel hypersensitivity can present in a milder form. So first you need to ask for any allergy to artificial jewelry. If the patient have allergy to artificial, you might have an amount of nickel hypersensitivity. So as and when you place the appliance, the patient might have widespread edema, swelling of the oral tissues. So usually it is due to nickel hypersensitivity. So what do you do in this patient? You can replace the appliances with a nickel free alloy or a alternative metallic appliances. So there are, due to the reporting of the nickel allergy, nickel free stainless steel has been uh, introduced. So 18% chromium is there in the place of 8% nickel. Molybdenum, manganese and nitrogen to compensate for nickel has been introduced. And there are two other wires called as mezzanium wire and niobium wire. So mezzanium wire is where manganese and nitrogen replace the allergic components of nickel. Mezzanium, manganese and nickel. Mezzanium wire. Okay. So this is corrosion resistant and it is ideal for nickel sensitive patients. And there is something called as duplex steel. It is an assembly of both austenite and ferrite grains. So they have more molybdenum and chromium and lower nickel content, and they are highly corrosion resistant. So these can also be used as a alternate for patients who have nickel sensitivity. So these are some advances in the stainless steel methods to prevent nickel sensitivity. So these can be asked as one mark question. So a patient comes with nickel allergy, what type of material can be used? So you can use any of these materials, nickel free stainless steel, or you can use ceramic wires, composite wires, coated Teflon wires, and there are other types of wires called as titanium molybdenum wires, gold wires. All these can be a replacement for stainless steel wires. So this ends the discussion on stainless steel. There are more videos that are available on nickel titanium, beta titanium and other orthodontic materials. Kindly go through them. Thank you.